Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 18th episode of the Collective Spotlight, where every week now for 18 weeks we've been spotlighting indie creative team and indie books across comic books, whether it be independent from Image all the way down to self-published books. And today we have a double feature yet again. It feels like we're going to start regularly double booking because we have so many awesome creative teams to have on the show. And to lead off, we actually have two awesome a writer and an artist from IDW. We have Rich and Alex, who are the creative team behind Sea of Sorrows, IDW's new comic book. Just finished reading it literally before we started the show. I don't want to butcher it, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys tell everybody what Sea of Sorrows is about.
We'll butcher it. We're happy to butcher it.
Yeah.
So Sea of Sorrows is it's a horror story. It's set in post World War I. It's about a salvage crew going after some gold on a sunken German U-boat and running into more than they bargained for in the form of a sea siren that has deadly intentions.
All right.
Tell me a little about what I believe is the main character, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Nick. Is Nick our main character, kind of, sort of? Like, I know there's a lot of players in this book, but tell me a little bit about Nick. That's going to be the guy that's going to be underwater a little bit of this book.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's an ensemble thing, but Nick is definitely like, if it was a movie, he'd be like the lead role or whatever. But yeah, like, so Nick is a salvage diver and a veteran of World War I. And the reason he became a salvage diver, or the reason he's so attracted to it, is that he's got a lot of, he's basically has PTSD, like they used to call it, like being shell shocked. And underwater, it's like the silence and the isolation is what attracts him, because it's sort of the one thing that keeps his demons at bay. So that's why he got involved in this this venture. He's not, he likes gold and money just as much as the next guy, but he really just kind of wants to just be sort of in the water and away from all the noise of the world above.
Awesome. Yeah, and the book, it is a horror book, correct? I know the first issue is really just laying the groundwork and building the universe, but there are some spooky parts. There was a couple parts that had my eyes open. This at its core is a horror book for you guys, correct?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah.
Horror, adventure.
I mean, the deep sea is scary, I mean, it is. Everybody thinks of space as the great unknown, but there's so much of the ocean that we don't know. And did that play a role into this? What was the kind of inspirations for this book, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Cool. Alex, why don't you talk a little bit about why you wanted to do like an underwater book?
All right. Well, so back when we were doing Road of Bones, which is the book before this one, there it is. Yep. Or there it is. I don't know which way I'm facing. Yeah. A while ago, so I told Rich that I was like, this is great because I always wanted to draw something that was in the snow because I'm from Massachusetts and it's snowing most of the year. And so I was like, this is great. I get to draw snow. The only other environments I always wanted to do were this or like something on the ocean. And we're like, all right, well, why don't we kick some ideas around about that? And, but what you were saying, like deep sea, like just being scary and all that, that was kind of the idea, was especially drawing it. When you flip through it, it's really just like pitch black in there. Yeah. Which one is a lot of fun because a lot of Road of Bones is, exactly. And a lot of Road of Bones is all white everywhere, and this one's all black everywhere. So, but just that idea that you're down there all by yourself, there's like, thousands of miles this way, thousands of miles that way, up, down, everywhere. Like all you can see is maybe like 5 feet in front of you. Yep. And the idea of like, all right, what else is out there? What's watching me? What's different about me? What wants to have me for lunch? And like, who knows? I take 3 steps this way and I fall down a chasm and never see it again. So,
yeah, it's almost like we we have like a lot of things where the guys where Nick's walking around with just like a lantern, like a flashlight, and it's just sort of like that one beam of light is like your lifeline, kind of, you know, like there's without it you're just like in total darkness. And
absolutely, yeah, and I could feel that. And actually, I'm going to ask Alex this question, because one thing I noticed about the book, and I'm sure this is part of what excited him to do it, is the contrast between when you have panels with Nick being underwater and, you know, the way it's drawn that way, to then when you have the rest of the cast up above deck and they're drawn there's a lot more light coming up there. So talk to me a little bit how you handled that.
It was kind of whenever he's underwater, I kind of thought of it. It was like he's basically like in space, you know, like he's just in his own world, and it's just completely alien, like even the ground. And this world looks like underwater. It's like walking on a different planet. Whereas up top, you know, the sun's always out, and like hard sun. You'll see in the book they always have like a heavy like noir shadow, but the reason why is because the sun's out. I mean, it's cold, but I mean, the sun's out, and also, again, being from New England, it can be sunny day, but that doesn't mean it's nice and toasty out. It can be, you know, 3 degrees and still sunny. But but that was kind of the idea was, just have, you know, upstairs world. But the thing is, you know, most of the time, like you're watching something hard, like there's your kind of break. It's like, okay, my break where I can relax is upstairs world. Yep. And but as you see in the story, it's not really the case. You got these two groups that are kind of like, you know, dealing with each other. They don't like each other, and they're like, well, we're in the middle of nowhere. Who says I can't just, you know, push this guy off? And there you go. And he slipped. What are you gonna do?
And there's a dialogue there. You know, I'm not gonna spoil the book, but there's a dialogue there where you can tell. And you know, for lack of a better term, it's like the monsters aren't just potentially underwater. You know, it's kind of that underlying context.
Yeah. There's problems all over.
Yeah. That was something we played with in Road of Bones too, and I think one of the things that kind of connects the two series, even though they're you know, totally different casts and totally different monsters and everything, but I think one of the themes that kind of ties them together is this idea of like there's kind of a human element to horror as well. There's horrific things that people do, and it's sort of like setting those human elements of horror against, like, right next to supernatural elements of horror, and kind of you know, not making a judgment on which is worse, but just sort of like let's put these two next to each other and let's see what they got in common, what's different. You know, I think that's like a big theme that we've been exploring in our work together.
Yeah, and actually, so first of all, I'm gonna do a quick segue. Ryan Jones is asking, where do we get this? So Sea of Sorrows is actually going to be on comic book shelves everywhere tomorrow. We have them here at the Collective. But yeah, and there are incentive covers for this as well. But this is the
Ryan, you'll love it.
Yeah, this is the awesome A cover done by Alex himself, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, that was maybe the first thing, or one of the first drawings we did for it.
Yeah. And what's cool is, like, at first people think, oh, it's just, this is very black. But when you actually get to look at it in person, there is, you know, your diver, and then, you know, there's so it's a very cool book. But now I want to ask you guys, you mentioned, you know, in your workings together, and we've mentioned Road of Bones a couple times now. You guys have worked together on IDW before. Talk to me a little bit about your guys' experience working together the first time at IDW, and what drove you guys to want to work together again now on Sea of Sorrows.
Well, you know, I saw Alex and I have known each other for a bunch of years, and I've always really enjoyed his art. And I never really thought about doing like a horror book, because I've always been writing most of my stuff is science fiction and fantasy stuff. But then I had the idea for Road of Bones, and it was horror. And Alex had this book out with my friend John Lees called Sync. And I was looking at Sync, and I was like, Alex is the perfect guy for Road of Bones. So I sort of corralled him at New York Comic Con one year, and I was like, and I gave him the pitch, and luckily he loved it. So So we put it together.
It's easy corralling, you know.
Yeah. He's the guy to please, right? No.
Hey, I got an idea for this story. Here it is. I'm like, yeah, great, good, let's go.
I didn't even have to get him drunk, which I usually do. But, anyway, so then we just, we put together a few pages, like, for like a pitch package, and we shopped it around. And IDW was super interested in it, and got behind us on it. So we went with them, and that was a great experience. They really got behind the book. Very supportive with us when we'd like go to conventions and things like that. So it was just sort of, when we decided we were going to do another one, it just made sense to us to stick with IDW, because we kind of feel like the books go together, and like what was it you said? They're kind of like.
Yeah, what is it called? What they call it's not Coronado or Carrillo, that trilogy with Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. So it's like, yeah.
Like it's kind of a sequel. It's the same group, but it has nothing to do with the other one.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of some of the flavor that you guys put in the first one, but it's a completely different story. And then that leads me. I'm going to ask Alex, what was it about Rob's pitch for Road to the Bones that got you on board? I mean, like, or were you just at that point where you're like, I'm signing up, next guy that pitches me something, I'm going? But no, really, what was it?
Well, we were at Rich and I were at it was New York Comic Con. Yeah. And we're friends with like a lot of the same guys, so we're just hanging out anyways. And Rich kind of pulled me aside and said, "Listen, I got this idea for a horror book." By the way, I had no idea that Rich never wrote any horror books. By the way, I know he did a lot of sci-fi. I know he did Gutter Magic, which is a great book. And Wailing Blade he just did with Joe Mulvey, which is on Kickstarter still, right?
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter.
Check out Wailing Blade; it's an awesome book. But yeah, I assumed like, I must have a couple horror books that I just haven't heard about, and or he's just never told me what's like another company. I don't know. But he told me the setup, and I was just like, yeah, no. So like, this is a story that like if I had nothing to do with this, I would have went out and bought it anyways. And I was just like, this is a great idea for a story. What a setup. I can't wait to see what happens. And like, I was already a fan, whether or not I was in it or not. And then I got a chance to even draw it. I was like, oh, well, that's all right. Let's do this. So, and yeah, it was the same deal with CSR. I was like, all right, here's kind of an idea. I'm like, oh, that'd be great. What a blast this is going to be drawing. And it is a blast to draw. Yeah. And, we're, and like right now I'm almost wrapped up with number 4, and we got one more after that. And I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, we can do like 10 more of these.
We got to figure out some new people to torture with.
Yeah. Now, so I mean, clearly you guys have to go to space next. We've done like but okay. So I've heard clearly both of you are super passionate about horror and stuff like that. So I have to ask both of you guys, what are your horror influences, whether it was movies or literature? What did growing up, what did Rob and Alex like in terms of the pop culture horror stuff?
I think for me, it's like first horror movie I saw probably way too young was Jaws.
Fitting.
I say way too young because I still go to the beach, and every time I go in the water, I'm like, there's not a shark in this water yet.
Like
I could
me too. That was the whole thing of the movie. It's like, what about the people in Jersey Beach?
Yeah, like I could be in like a pond, and I'll be like, do I see a fin? But anyway, so Jaws is a big one. The Thing. I love John Carpenter movies, and also like what else? Living Dead movies. I'm a big fan of those, like both Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead, which I think is one of the funniest movies, like horror or not. Like, but anyway, so I think like like if you nail me down and it was like the top, like what's my most influential like horror thing, it would be like a toss up between Jaws and The Thing, the John Carpenter thing. There's just something about Jaws that's like very like just like visceral and like primal about like, you know, man versus shark. And then what I love about The Thing is that it's an Alien is another one. But what I love about The Thing is that there's just this sort of like rampant paranoia running through it. You know, like you got this monster, but they don't know who to trust. You don't know who to trust as an audience member. Like, you know, it could, you know, the thing could be anybody, could be anything, and it's just, I think, like a masterpiece as far as like horror stuff goes.
Oh, absolutely. And then I like how you had your own little Jaws moment in here. Yeah, I saw that. But Alex, especially you as an artist, what was your influences to get to this? Because your style fits horror books. I will say, like, immediately, I can see it. So, what was your influences for as a kid?
For me, at least horror. Was that
My Little Pony, Care Bears?
My Little Pony, Care Bears, especially. Any all those guys, yeah.
Gummy bears, yeah, I know.
I want to say, you mentioned Jaws. I want to tell you a funny story real quick. When I was a kid, when I first saw it, so my family, we would always go to Cape Cod in the summertime, and I was like maybe like 10 years old or whatever, and I'm watching it on TV, like on TNT or whatever. It's right as the Kittner kid gets eaten. There's blood everywhere. It's all gruesome. His name's Alex. My name's Alex. Once he's dead, the raft is washing up on shore, right? My mother walks in, hits the button on the TV, like, all right, what are we doing? We're going to the beach. Let's go. I'm like, I'm not going to the beach. You're trying to kill me.
I've seen this before.
But I mean, horror movies especially. Jaws. I mean, Jaws is Jaws. Spielberg just in general. Like Indiana Jones is my all-time favorite movie. I mean, all three. But like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like all those greats from like the 70s, right? I mean, like you mentioned, Alien, The Thing, Tom Carpenter movies, the Living Dead movies. Big fan of those like really gory zombie movies. Like Dead Alive is a blast. I mean, that movie's so much fun. It's definitely one you gotta get on.
Another one. Halloween and Friday. Halloween and
Friday.
Yeah,
and if you behind my head is Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah,
and that one, I was gonna say another horror movie that really stuck with me was when I first saw Carrie. And I was just like at that point, I was like a late bloomer with horror movies, which is funny because I draw horror books mostly.
Yeah.
But I was like kind of tiptoeing into this whole like, all right, let's see what this is all about. We were watching Carrie, and I was like, okay, it's not so bad. I got it. I got through that, no problem. And she's gonna put the flowers down the grave, and oh my god, and that hand shot up. I got like, I'm going to my room, and I'm gonna just leave me alone for a while.
Oh my gosh, no, and that's actually funny. That's kind of what I could have expected, especially after reading it and then knowing, those are, I think, everybody that loves horror. Alien is up there for a lot of us nowadays. The Thing, like Rob said, is kind of that quintessential, perfectly done horror suspense movie, which as comics, I think everybody labels comics as horror comics, but a lot of comics, horror comics have to have suspense or else you really are falling flat. And I can tell that you guys are going there already. Like, again, by the time I got to the end of the first issue, my jaw's just there, and I'm just like, okay, I have to wait 4 weeks for the next one. Wow. Okay. Talk to me a little bit about what your guys' plan is. I know, Alex, you just said you're pretty much done with issue 4. It's going to be a 5-issue mini, but what is the plan? What can people expect throughout the course of this book? Mystery, a lot of jump scares. What are you guys packing in here?
Well, I think, writing a horror comic is a lot different than like, say, like a horror movie, because you kind of have a different toolbox to work with. Like in a movie, you can build tension with the music. You can have like jump scares. You can have stuff like that, and you can do similar things in comics. But I think what you said is totally true. Like a lot of it is like kind of suspense and trying to create an atmosphere of dread, as opposed to like just having like something like jump out and like shock you, because even with a page turn, it's a little bit different. So so I think what you can expect is, we're just sort of like, this is like a pot of water, and like we're just making it hotter and hotter and hotter, and things are gonna reach a boiling point, and then all is gonna break loose. But I think we've got some really fun surprises in store for people that you're just not going to see coming, especially in issue 4. And especially the page that, unless I'm wrong, Alex is drawing.
Yeah, I'm currently working
right
on that
now.
Oh, I'm psyched for people to see. I'm excited for people to see also the first page of the next issue.
Ooh,
yeah.
I'm
excited for that opening. I'm like,
I'm excited for people to see the last page of this issue. Like, I think I very much
love that page. It's one of my favorites. Like, it's so good. Sorry, Alex. I don't mean to embarrass you, but it's just
embarrass away.
Yeah. So I think like we definitely got some twists and turns in store, some surprises, and like it's just sort of the thing where we're just going to keep building and building and building, and believe it or not, even the big surprise that Alex is drawing now in issue 4, there's an even bigger one in issue 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And before I got another question for Alex. I know I just kind of let Rob go on that one, but I have to ask, not suggested that anybody gets attached to any characters. Not because it seems like any character can go at any point in time. I know the first, you established everybody in that first issue, but I don't think it's safe to get attached to anybody just yet.
They're fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's great. And Alex, talk to me a little bit about having to draw these different characters, because you've got your ensemble of the main characters, but there's a whole crew on this boat. So you have to kind of, and does Rob tell you how many members are on the boat, or do you kind of get to that point where you say, hey, this is how many people I'm drawing on the boat?
Well, finally in this issue, there's like a big group shot of everybody that's on the boat. And that's kind of when I'm like, all right, where are all the faces that I've been drawing? All right, let's get them all out here. All right, come on, fellas, let's all line up.
Carl's a working.
That's more interesting than anything I was going to say. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. We're all quarantined together. So,
yeah. The thing I thought of a second ago after I mentioned all the horror movies, another big influence for this was like a lot of movies from even though the story is supposed to be the 20s, a lot of movies from the 30s. So like a lot of the crew is based on like guys from King Kong, like background guys in King Kong.
Okay.
Like guys from like a lot of the like uniform and stuff like that is based straight out of To Have or Have Not, the Bogart movie, where we first met Lauren Bacall, and like even there's one like even a couple guys going like horror roots, like based off of like old like Universal movies, like from like the original like Dracula or Frankenstein, like some background characters in that too. And then there's some other oddball ones like but so this is a trick that I've told Rich that I'll do when I'm trying to think of a character design. A lot of times I'll think of like a famous person or somebody I know or that where I'll cast them into this role, and instead of drawing a straight picture of them, I'll just think of what they look like and then draw them from there, and whatever that comes out, that'll be the character. So like one of the main bad guys or one of the main guys on the boat, I based off of James Cagney. Just cause I was just like, all right, what? And I just tried to think of what he looks like, and I drew it from there. And a lot of them are like, like these 1930s guys. For whatever reason, Nick, like maybe the main guy, I based off of the lead singer of Gogo Bordello. I thought of like he popped in my head. I think like a song was on. I was like, why don't I try him?
You've got Easter eggs all over the place in terms of the art then. Like, I mean, people who are fans of King Kong, people who are fans of 30s movies are going to find, little Easter eggs everywhere.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I love about Alex's character designs is that, like, everybody, they kind of they look like real people, like a lot of times in comic books, especially like superhero comics, everybody's sort of this like ideal human form. They like, they're all like supermen and superwomen, and I think like one of the things, it's almost like when Alex draws these people, it's like you can almost feel the grit like on them. And,
yeah. Well, and that's what I was gonna ask Alex actually. Dude, I feel like, and I think people that may look at this book may not realize it right away. It's not easy to draw in the darkness. Not like you're drawing in the dark in your house, but like to draw scenes in darkness. And you seem to really excel and enjoy doing that. A lot of this first issue has scenes that are kind of, I'm not going to say in total dark, but the thing is you have to draw something into that darkness. You can't just have a black panel.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like you really excel. Is that something that you had worked on prior to this book, or did you master that technique kind of recently?
Yeah, well, I think it a lot comes from I'm a huge Sin City fan.
Okay.
And on top of that, an artist I love is Christophe. It's a French name. I screw it up every time, but it's Chapute. Okay. But anyway, he recently did a Moby Dick, his version of Moby Dick. He also did a book called Alone. A lot of graphic novels, just not like floppies, but and there was one that was a big influence on Road to Bone, which the name, of course, is escaping right now. I think it's like not a Walk in the Woods. That's a Bill Bryson book. To Build a Fire, I think it's called. Yeah. But anyway, this guy does amazing silhouettes, especially of like the guy's backgrounds are out of this world good. And his Moby Dick book, which is there you go. This guy right here, as you can see, he does a lot of dark in there too. So this has been like right here is a big influence, and to give you an idea. So I've been looking at a lot of that, but and also just being a fan of noir stuff and like filmmaking and all that, like Third Man, like those heavy shadows. Man, I just love that stuff, and it's fun to draw. I'm doing it stupid though because I'm basically drawing the whole thing and then like minusing by throwing in all the big heavy shadows. If I had any brains, I would work smarter, not harder, but maybe I don't know.
That's awesome. So I got one more question for both of you guys. We've talked actually one more question, and then I'll let you guys kind of tell everybody where they can find you. But we've talked a little bit about horror books. They're very different than writing any other type of comic book. I always tell people the first issue of any horror book is a little tough to judge it on because I feel like any comic book you are building a universe, you're laying the groundwork. With a horror book, you're trying to lay the groundwork while also still being a horror book at your core. How did you guys approach writing the first issue? I'm sure you guys had your plan for all 5 issues, but was it a little tough writing your first issue without giving away too much, but also still, you want to hook people? Is there a different approach to horror books than when you've written previous, other works?
I mean, I think there is in that, I think with a horror book or any book where there's kind of like a mystery element, it's like there's certain things you need to set up in order to kind of bring everybody back to want to find out like, what's going to happen next. But, I think there's like some things that are universal to like pretty much every story, whether it's horror or fantasy or even just, just like a story you're going to tell somebody about, like, your what happened to you last weekend. It's like, you kind of want to, you need to sort of let people know like where they are. Like you sort of like, you need to lay the ground rules for what the story is going to be and what the world is going to be like, So it's like if I wrote a first issue where kind of everything was taking place in some sort of fantasy world, like with wizards and dragons and things, and then the second issue was on a spaceship, you'd be like, what's going on? It's like if they're going to be on a spaceship, it's like they have to be on the spaceship by the last page of the first issue. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. So it's not that you can't tell a story like that. It's just that you really kind of have to give people what they need to know to understand the rest of the story. So I think that's like the biggest hurdle with first issues. And I think with horror, like you said, you don't always want to give away too much, but then you also don't want it to be completely flat. You got to give some like indication of the monster or the threat or whatever it is. Otherwise, even though even if it doesn't directly affect the people, like if nobody gets eaten in issue 1 or stabbed in issue 1, like the monster sort of still be there. You have to kind of build the threat. So I think that's the thing that I think is kind of like universal with good, like, well done first issues.
Yeah, and Rich, I have to say, like I said, I read it right before we came on. You did a great job. I'm excited to get this in the hands of our customers. Alex, you also did a great job, man. This really has the feel of a horror book, something that I think doesn't come around very often. DC tried their hand at it there with Joe Hill stuff, but we don't get a lot of it very often. So I'm excited to get this in the hands of our readers. Rich, Alex, tell everybody where they can find you on social media, things like that. Rich, you can go first.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at R Douek. You generally, anywhere you see R Douek online, there's a good chance that it's me, because it's not a very common name. But, as far as social media goes, I use Twitter the most. I tweet a lot, so that's probably the best place if you're looking to follow me. I have a website also, which is rdouek.com. You go on there. I have a newsletter you could sign up for. I try to keep people up to date with stuff that I'm working on, stuff that I like. So that's where to find me. And then the only other thing, Alex mentioned it before, I have a Kickstarter going on right now for a book called Wailing Blade. You can go to comicstribe.com/Wailing Blade and check that out. Totally different book than Sea of Sorrows, but for the last days, so please check it out and have a look. But
yeah, and Rich, after we're done here, if you want, go ahead into the feed, and you can drop a link. You can drop a link to that, and I'll pin it so everybody can see that too.
Oh, awesome! Thanks.
Yeah. And Alex, where are you? Where can people see your gritty, noir, awesome artwork?
Yeah, so you can on Twitter, it's Alex Cormack 4. It's number 4 because I was the 4th guy that signed up named Alex Cormack. It's and then on Instagram, my name Alex Cormack Illustrator. It's either illustrator or artist. I think it's illustrator. But along with that, I have a Patreon page where it's just my name, Alex Cormack. And there, I got a bunch of neat stuff on there that just started. Like I launched that on Halloween, so it's like brand new. And then I'm on Facebook too, Alex Cormack Illustrator. But yeah, jump on them all.
Yeah, that's awesome, guys. Well, again, the book is Sea of Sorrows #1 by IDW. We will have it on shelves at the Collective. It is going to be one of my Danny Loves This on the shelf. So when you see Danny Loves This right over that, I read it. I liked it. But again, thank you so much to Rich and Alex. Best of luck with the book. Maybe we'll bring you guys back on at issue 5 to talk about, everything that we've unpackaged here.
Yeah, I would love that.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. Best of luck, and we will see you guys around. All right.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Say hi to Chris and Dave. They're both friends and also great.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys all know each other. Yeah, that's what the Collective Initiative is all about, is bringing these creators together. So that's awesome, man. You guys take it easy. Thanks again for being on the show.
Hey, thank you again.
So that was Rich and Alex from Sea of Sorrows right here. That book is new this week. My next guests are from a book from Madcave Studios called Pantomime. And they are the writer, Chris, and then the artist, David. And how are you guys doing today?
Hey, how's it going? Doing all right.
Good. Chris, I'm sorry that we couldn't have a battle to the death with Rich and Alex. Like, I know that's like really what you wanted. I think Chris is muted.
Oh.
I unmute him.
Sorry, I'm still bad at this.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So I'm gonna jump right into this. So you guys do a book called Pantomime. One of the cool things about Pantomime, other than it being an awesome book featuring, young adult teenage characters that are doing awesome things on their own, is that I don't know. I know Madcave put out a press release. I'm not sure again how to word it, but there is no dialogue that comes from spoken word. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All of our spoken word is all just squiggles. Yeah. All the communication in Pantomime is all sign language.
So, talk to me about that idea. Actually, I don't know if Madcave ended up telling you. We had a customer here whose daughter is an American Sign Language major, and he works for the school district. So we were able to get 20 copies of Pantomime to the school district here for their ASL programs.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
That's
I love that. I'm so glad that happened. That's so good.
Yeah. We're very happy about it. As soon as we got the email about the concept of this, we recognized that it was very unique and very awesome and something, needed in the community. But talk to me a little bit about how the idea, well, actually, I'll let you guys explain it, what the story of Pantomime is, and then talk to me about how that idea came about, because it is very unique.
Can I make David explain it?
Yeah. I'll take it from here. Yeah, so I like to describe Pantomime as Ocean's 11 meets Oliver Twist. It's a crime book featuring 5 main characters, all of whom are signing capable. So they have various levels of hearing disability, and so they all communicate through sign language. And it's a book about these kids who are trying to develop a family, and the way that they go about doing that happens to be through learning how to steal things, and that gets them into so much trouble and they dig so many holes for themselves. And in the end, it's really a story about kind of defining who you are within a family group and trusting the people that you kind of build your life around.
Yeah, that's really good. That's better than I would have done.
Professional. you helped to come up with the book or something. So, like we said, there is no spoken dialogue. Anybody who speaks like that, it's like you said, squiggles. Kind of reminds me of Charlie Brown and the teacher in Charlie Brown. Like, you're not going to understand it, but the actual dialogue in the book comes from American Sign Language. Talk to me about that concept. Where did that come from? How did you guys go about that? How difficult was that as an artist to do?
Oh man, I mean, we'll get into the art here in a second, but the whole idea came from Chris and our editor, Chris Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, I initially, when I wrote the first issue, I just wrote it noting that our characters were signing, but I also initially had dialogue going on from speaking people, and yeah, our editor, we kind of batted it back and forth and came to that's why the team is so important in comics. Is if it were left to me, I probably would have done a really bad job, but with our editor and with David and Justin, our letterer, and our sensitivity reader, it all came together where we figured out let's just focus on the signing as our main form of language, and not if we're doing it right, we don't have to hear what other people are saying. We don't have to hear, a spoken out loud dialogue, if we're doing our jobs right. But so much of how the signing came, a lot of that's on David and Justin, our letterer. They really worked out how to make it look good.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of really interesting moments, especially in the first issue, because our main cast of characters, they're not all completely deaf. There are a couple of them who can actually hear spoken language, but the main point of view is through Haley. She's our main character, and she is deaf, which means that so everything is mostly through her perspective, which means that spoken language does come across as mute, which I think. I'm not entirely sure how we came to that. I think Justin had a hand in that too. But either way, Justin's been handling the lettering super great. And then the sign language bit myself just kind of came across organically with the artwork. So when I was first contracted for the job, Chris Sanchez, our editor, came to me and he was like, "Hey, I really like how you do facial expressions and character work, and that's kind of a strong suit in my work." And he said, "Do you want to do a crime book with Chris Sebela that needs that?" And immediately I was like, "Yes, 100%. Like, don't tell me about the story. I want to do that because I'm a fan of Chris's work and have read multiple of his previous books." And then it came around that like we were doing a sign language book, and I was like, "Oh, that's so exciting!" And a huge challenge because I'm not ASL fluent. I'm not I'm not signing capable, and so that constantly takes me a lot of research and a lot of dedication to kind of getting that across. And so the way that we kind of developed our system is that Chris writes the book with and it looks very similar to a normal book with dialogue and everything like that. And then I'll go through and I'll try to parse out like the important bits of dialogue, the important words and things like that. And then I'll find like one or two that I think are the heart of what is being said, and I'll go out and I'll do research. I've got websites and dictionaries and things like that I'll go try to check and find the signs for those words, which is interesting to swim through different like syntaxes and things like that, because ASL is not a direct translation. It's not a cipher for spoken language. It's got its own grammatical rules.
Yeah.
So I'll try to find the symbols that line up with the words that we're saying, and then that's the sign that I'll draw. And if it's a complicated one, I'll have multiple hands in a panel trying to define where they started the sign versus where they ended it. Do you have an example?
What I thought was cool is like how you, especially on this one, how you will show movement of the hand. Because clearly this guy doesn't have three hands, so that's supposed to be that he moved it. Because a lot of signing is letter based or word based. So amazing! It was amazing to me that what you were able to do there, and I can imagine it took you a smidge longer than it would if you were just drawing a regular comic book.
It does. It is a little bit more complicated. Yeah, especially to get the sign right at different angles. Right. Sometimes I'll run into an issue where and here I've got to promote our diversity reader, Jamie Vanderkloot. He has been like instrumental in getting this thing across, because I'll put in a sign that I think is correct, and sometimes Jamie will come back and be like, "That's actually British Sign Language," or "That's not anything that anybody says," or "That's backwards." And I'll be like, "Oh no!" So I'm so glad that we have Jamie to set me on the right path, and he'll show me the right signs. And sometimes I'll have chosen a camera angle where it's really weird to do that sign, and like you don't see all the detail in it. So sometimes the signs are a little bit hit or miss, and it gets a little bit complicated. But I think it's been a worthwhile endeavor, because so far we've heard good things.
Absolutely. No, and actually I want to ask you both a little bit about working with a diversity reader. I figured from the get-go that there was going to be one involved, just because of the subject matter and everything like that. So talk to me. I mean, you already mentioned a little bit about how instrumental he was, but talk to me about what it's like. Was this the first time either of you guys have had to work with a diversity or sensitivity reader in your comic book creating days?
I've used one or two. I can't remember, but that was the first thing I brought up to our editor when he asked me if I wanted to write this. I was like, I would love to, but like, I want to make sure that we have an actual like deaf person reading this and making sure that I'm not screwing it up, because I just know that like I don't know everything, and the last thing I want to do is like do a book that's supposed to be like fun and escapism and turn it into something that's like just propagating stereotypes or doing something wrong or harmful. So that was right out of the gate I was like, we have to have one, and he completely agreed. So I mean, it just gives you a certain level of confidence knowing that like if I screw something up, somebody is there to stop us before we like drive off the cliff, like to say like, no, like this doesn't work. This isn't accurate. So yeah, it's and I value that kind of stuff, like, because it educates me, because like yeah, there's only so much I can know as one human being locked in his apartment forever. So it's good to have that outside perspective. And yeah, Jamie has really been helping the book immensely.
That is awesome, and like I said, when we got this taken to the schools, we had to get approval from principals. So it was read by principals, and I mean everybody approved. It didn't seem like, and nobody thought it was anything inappropriate or anything like that. What I thought was awesome, and again, this is just us in a small little portion of Altamont Springs, Florida. So I have to ask you guys, has anybody reached out to you guys, whether it's, them personally that read it maybe, or their kids or somebody that is related to them that, is hard of hearing or anything that has talked about this book to you guys yet? Has that happened? I know right now there's no convention, so it would really just be social media, but has it happened?
I mean, I haven't heard directly from anybody, but also I've been kind of in my own little world. So I don't know. Have you, David?
Yeah, no, I mean, with the pandemic and everything like that, it's kind of hard for people to reach out personally. And I haven't specifically talked to anybody who's been represented by the book. I did have an interview last week with Pastrami Nation, and they had an ASL teacher on. I know. And they had an ASL teacher who actually did one of the first reviews of issue 1 when it came out.
Awesome.
And she, along with the review that she wrote, she also did an ASL video that went along with the review. And she was super excited about the sign language in that too. So from her point of view, and from you telling us about this classroom that got a bunch of books, I'm honestly very thrilled. That's always been like a little bit of a scary thing for me, right? In drawing a book when I'm not ASL fluent, and just being like, God, I hope I don't screw this up, even with Jamie. I hope that I get this right. And so far, it seems like people have been responding pretty positively. And
nobody has contacted us angry.
Yeah. So far, nobody's yelled at us.
And like I said, it's just a small sample size that we have over here, but it seems like overall, from somebody who's planning to become an interpreter to people who are dealing with schools at this level, positive receptions all the way around, both on an academic level and everything. So
I love that. That's so good. Thank you so much for letting us know.
So let me ask you guys a little bit about working with Madcave. A lot of the guys we've had on Madcave have been the talent search winners. You guys, first of all, Chris has been, decently established,
Has a couple of things out there, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a couple of things out there. So what was it like? How did Madcave approach you guys? Did Madcave? I know you said, David, that you were contracted for this, but did Madcave approach you with the idea, Chris, or how did that go?
Yeah, I just got an email through my website from Chris Sanchez, our editor, and he was like, "Hey, I work at Madcave, and we have this idea, and would you be interested?" And I was like, sure, send it along. Always and I didn't even really know who Madcave was at that point. So I did some quick homework just to make sure they were real. And I was like, oh, cool. It's a new publisher. And I think comics can always use more publishers trying to put out different books. So I was interested from that, and then when he sent me the original idea, which at the core was the idea of a group of deaf kids who go into a life of crime, but a lot of the stuff surrounding it was different from what the book is now. And I wrote him back, and I was like, hey, I really like this core concept, and I like a couple of these things, but there's a lot I would change if I was going to do it, and would you be up for that? And he was like, yeah, of course. So right then I was pretty invested, because doing work for hire stuff, it's hard to, especially working for the big two is there's so many rules, so much canon that you have to stick to. And you can't do this because we're doing this 5 months down the road. Or, doing license stuff, you have to answer to your licensors, who will say oh, we don't want this to happen in this book. and we won't give you a reason why. We just don't want it. So like for them to give me the freedom to kind of break it down and make it my own was like, yeah, I'm totally on board. So yeah, from there it was just like working with Chris to break out the story and make sure everything worked well. And they've been awesome, really, like super like giving me a lot of room, especially this year, like with everything going on this year. Like I definitely hit a couple months where I was like, I'm really trying to finish this, I swear to God. But like, it's like, no, we totally get it. So like, you know, they're not just like a good company, they're also like good human beings, which is always nice for people that you're getting into bed with.
And David, was this the first time that you had worked with Madcave?
Yeah, no, very similar story. I hadn't even heard of Madcave before. Chris reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to do a crime book with Sebela?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then yeah, you know, same deal. You got to research a little bit and be like, "Oh, they are a thing. That's great." And yeah, Madcave has been amazing to work for all the way through. Especially again this year, I wrote the same email where I was like, "I'm so sorry. I am creatively drained. I can't move right now." And our editor got back and was like, "Listen, we're months ahead. It's totally fine. We don't print until November. You know, just as long as we're still moving, we're moving, and that's okay." So, Madcave has been very professional and also very nice, and it's been refreshing actually to work with in the industry.
I'm glad to hear, because everybody we're hearing the same story from everybody. Madcave, not an FOC publisher, but we actually had a talent search winner, Jared Lajuan from Dryfoot, literally just send us a copy of his book, and he was like,
nice.
"Hey, please order this." And I got on the phone with him after reading it. We had him. He's actually one of our first ever guests on the show. And now we order every single Madcave #1. I mean, the people are amazing. But it's one of those things that they just didn't get on our radar until we realized how amazing they were. Which is unfortunate. Speaking of awesome, you know, positive things. The book, even though, you know, it is a crime book and the kids are, you know, up to no good technically. I can't help but feel like when I read the first issue, the beginning of the book, essentially everybody has their hard knocks. You know, other than their disability, they have something going on with their family or the money or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then by the end of it, even though it is a crime, they seem to find something that they can all do well together. And they find, like you mentioned, Ocean's 11, everybody has their place. Despite it being a negative perception because it's theft, I feel like there's positive to be said there, that, you know, these people that throughout the book, sometimes everybody else is telling them they can't do something and they go to prove to themselves that they can. Am I off base there? Does that sound about right?
No, that's, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like, you know, we start the book with like Haley and Max are two, I guess, main characters. Mm-hmm. Are, you know, their mom is sick and dying and they're trapped. Like they have nobody left to take care of them. And like, you know, they're just in this small world, and then they get moved to, you know, they get to go to this school and their world like explodes, becomes this huge thing. But then like, you know, so it's about them, you know, it's a brand new world and they're trying to figure out what are the boundaries to it. So it's, you know, it becomes, crime is the vehicle they do it, but it's the same thing that like I think everybody does growing up, is you try to figure out like, well, what are the limits, like, and what can I do before, like, you know, either the thing in my brain or, you know, society at large says that's too far, or, you know, you can't do that. So I feel like they're just, you know, yeah, they're not taking the most admirable path, but it's the same thing that everybody does growing up.
Yeah, I did feel like it's. I hesitate to call it a hero's journey, but they are heroes. It's their own hero's journey, right?
It's the unheroic hero's journey.
Yeah,
yeah. It's a lot of. I feel like a main principle of the book is autonomy, and it's something that they struggle against a whole bunch, right? So they like you said, they each have had their own troubles in life, and it's treated them different ways. And with each other and kind of finding out this skill set that they have, it lets them take control of their own kind of futures and lives. And where the antagonist comes in, where the trouble with the book comes in, is when they get that autonomy taken away from them again, and how they kind of push back and find their own footing over and over again, and like what lengths that pushes them to. So I think that like a big thing is finding your own voice, is finding their own voice as a family and individually as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned the word family there, David, because I thought it was refreshing. A lot of books that feature young adults, teenagers specifically, a lot of times they're bickering. It's that old schoolyard, like, oh, we don't like you and you. But this one, it has that sense of family. It's like when you don't have a family is what you make of it. And I feel like this one at its core also has that with the kids. I don't want to spoil something because it's about halfway through, but there's a moment where you could tell they really care about one of their own. So I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to what is this going to be a 5-issue miniseries? What is the plan for this?
Oh, we got 6. Mm-hmm.
6?
Uh-huh.
I like that because sometimes I get to 5 and I'm just like, oh, I could have done one more. So like I'm okay with it.
Yep.
No, I mean the craziest thing is it was supposed to be 5 issues when Chris originally talked to me. And then, I sent him my breakdown of what I saw the story being, and he this never happens. He wrote back and he's like, "Oh, this seems a little tight. Like, is it cool if we give you a 6th issue?" Yeah, more room to actually do this the right way rather than just cramming everything into this So, and I can count, on one hand. Like, that's never happened. Like, I've never had a publisher be like, hey, do you want another issue just to make sure we do this right? Like,
do you want to keep working?
That's awesome. No, and again, it doesn't surprise me. I've heard tons of good things about Chris because he's been the editor on a few other books from people that we've had on. But gosh, man, I'm so glad I was able to finally get you guys on the show. I know the book came out a couple weeks ago. We've been busy getting the boxes together for the schools. They literally just went out. Those schools are probably getting them. Well, the principals are probably getting them this week, so the students will probably get them next week because you know how
that's
that
so
works.
Fantastic. I love that.
But yeah, man, I'm so glad we were able to have you on the show. Again, Chris, David, tell people where they can find you. Chris, you can go first. I know you're on Twitter with a crazy Twitter handle. That's awesome.
It's not that crazy. It's Xtop, like Xmas, but Xtop. And then same handle on Instagram. And then my website is ChristopherSebela.com. And I'm literally in the middle of updating it. So it should have information beyond the end of 2018 on there soon.
and David, where can the people find you?
I'm Stoll Comics on literally everything. So Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, although I don't really use Tumblr anymore, is Stoll Comics, STOLL Comics. And StollComics.com is my portfolio site.
Awesome, guys. So thank you so much for having for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Can't wait to see what happens in issue 2 and beyond. Wishing you
definitely.
Best of luck. Before I let you guys go, shoot me an email because we want to see if we can send some copies to get signed.
Sure.
Some of our fans
absolutely. Yeah.
So we would love to send off some copies to get signed. And gosh, Chris, I don't know, man. Do we have enough Chris Sebela stuff in the store? Actually, also fun story about Dead Dudes before I let you go. Ben Sears, who did the art on this with you, is one of our very first collective initiative guys for his self-published stuff, which we do self-published stuff in our store. So I thought that was hilarious how everything comes full circle now. We've gone from Ben to Dead Dudes to Chris.
Yeah, I still don't know why Ben said he would work with me, but I wasn't going to ask him too hard about it. So.
Well, thank you so much, guys. The book is Pantomime. The collective still has tons of issue 1s because we ordered up with all the ordering that we were doing for multiple places. So we do still have some issue 1s left. Some of them may be going out of the building for some signatures, but they will be back. And thank you again to both Chris and David. Best of luck with the book, and congratulations so far on the first amazing issue.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy, guys, and we'll have you guys back on the show hopefully soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much, guys, for joining me on this 18th episode of the Collective Spotlight. We're getting close to episode 25, which clearly means we're going to have to do a $9.99 extra size special. But don't worry, it'll be square bound. But again, I want to thank Rich and Alex from Sea of Sorrows, IDW's newest underwater horror book. Very awesome. If you liked Plunge from DC, you're going to love this. If you liked their previous book, Road to Bones, you're going to love this. Come pick it up. We also had the creators of Pantomime from Madcave. Awesome concept. If you're a fan of Umbrella Academy, if you're a fan of Strange Academy, if you're a fan of any academy, grab this. This is Pantomime. They're not in an academy, but they really are. But thank you again to all of our guests. Thank you to everybody that viewed. Thank you, Brian Silverbacks. Thank you, Pops. Thank you, Ryan Jones. Steven Spivak's out there. He's my producer. And do not forget, Wednesday, tomorrow from 12 to 8 here at the Collective, we are going to have Jonathan Hedrick, the writer and creator of The Recount from Scout Comics, and Brian Silverbacks, this fella. Brian Silverbacks will be here signing his retailer incentive exclusive, which we have about 35 copies in the store. So be here quick to get your Silverbacks copy. And from 12 to 8, Jonathan Hedrick will be here. Jonathan Hedrick will be here along with Brian, signing anything and everything. We have loggerheads as well. So we'll see you tomorrow at the Collective. Take it easy, everybody. And